Joining me now is the panel this evening, National Senator M.Canavan and Research Fellow at the Institute of Public Affairs, Saxon Davidson. Good to have you both on. Thank you for joining me. Firstly, I just want to get both of your reactions to Chris Bowen. Matt, he can't even give a guarantee that we will reach our energy targets. What does that tell you?
Well, it tells me they're going to miss that target just like they missed their price target, Danica. The more important target, I think, for most Australians is a cost of living target, a reduction in their power bills target. And in the last term, the Labor Party promised to reduce those bills to you by $275. They don't repeat that anymore. I think they've scrubbed the number 275 from their vocabulary. You'll never get them to hear them say that again. And they've just walked away from that. And they're probably going to miss this 82% target in 2030. I mean, why are we even bothering pursuing that? I mean, who cares about that? How's that going to make anyone in this country's life better if we have more Chinese-made solar panels or wind turbines installed? What will make people's life better is if their power bills go down. And as many jokes as Chris Bowen wants to try to tell this week in Parliament, the power bills of Australians right now are no laughing matter. I don't think anybody opens their power bills and breaks out in fits of laughter. They keep going up and up and up, and they keep going up, seemingly, the more renewable energy we install. So since we started mandating renewable energy targets, we mandated the first of those back in 2001, electricity prices, I should say, in this country have gone up 248%. They've more than tripled since that time. And so you'd think we'd learn a lesson over the past couple of decades that just simply mandating more and more renewable energy doesn't lower people's power bills. But the government here seems to be wanting to continue to persist with a strategy that's failed time and time again, and no wonder power bills keep going up and up and up.
Yeah, it keeps persisting with this experiment, and you're right, our bills are going in the other direction, even though we were told under the Renewables fantasy that they would actually go down. And Saxon, you know, as Matt just alluded to, the reality is Labor cannot run from the fact it promised to lower power bills, and the minister cannot keep running from it either.
I've never seen somebody be in the first stage of grief for so long, just denying that his failed energy policies has let down Australians for 3 years straight. The policy of net zero, as Matthew was alluding to, is just driving prices up. And in the middle of a cost of living crisis, Australians are suffering hard under this net zero policy, under this renewables only push. And Chris Bowen cannot simply just keep on running away from the fact that renewables are driving up power bills and is driving up the cost of living and is making our energy grid less affordable and less reliable, which is really what the priority of all energy policy should be, to make our grid more secure and to keep people's power bills down.
Yeah, absolutely. No plan B for the future, just running off this experiment. Now, look, there are concerns of an economic death spiral after Queensland's Mount Isa copper mine closed for good this week, marking the end of more than 60 years of operations. Regional leaders say about 17,000 direct and indirect jobs will be lost without an immediate government bailout of Glencore to save the smelter and refinery. Matt, this is all happening in your state. Tell us how critical this mine was to the area and what happens next.
Well, look, the mine, we've known the mine would shut for some time now. It's just come to the end of its life. That's a terrible impact for those people who've lost their jobs in that mine. I mean, the silver lining here, there are 17 other mines that currently feed the copper smelter. There's plenty of copper around this area. It's one of the richest mineral areas in the world, the Northwest Minerals Province. So there's no reason potentially that we would lose copper mining, copper smelting and copper refining from North Queensland, providing we've got a sensible set of energy policies that sustains that type of manufacturing. So there's a slightly separate issue to the mine shutting down, is that the smelter at the moment is effectively losing lots of money every year. That is because energy prices in this country are through the roof, and making copper takes a lot of energy. It's also because China is massively expanding smelting capacity around the world and seeking to try and bankrupt other smelters so they can monopolise such an important mineral. So this would have a devastating impact on North Queensland. Some estimates reckon that unemployment in Townsville could go to 18% if the refinery and smelter shut. It's got such a big implication. But it's also so important for our country because every Joint Strike fighter, for example, has 517 kilograms of copper in it. If we can't make this stuff, we can't defend our nation.
No, good point. And, you know, we hear from Labor all the time the importance of made in Australia. That's the big motto. But as you said, Matt, you know, we really need this. Saxon, do you think there needs to be some sort of bailout agreement?
Maybe. If the government was serious about having a future made in Australia, though, we wouldn't be reaching the need to bail out companies. As Matthew said, the reason that this copper smelter is going broke is because energy prices keep on going up. And that's because of the simple fact is that you cannot have a future made in Australia while pursuing a renewables-only focus in an energy grid. Otherwise, if we continue down this net zero path, the Future Made in Australia policy is more of a slogan than it is actually a proper policy, from the Labor Party. We probably do need to bail them out simply because our 17,000 jobs is huge for regional communities such as Mount Isa and Northern Queensland, but also because this is vital for our national security and also for making sure that we have the rare earth minerals and critical minerals for our future.
Yeah, yep, you're not wrong, absolutely. Now, look, I want to draw your attention to the news this evening about how spies are costing our economy $12.5 billion. This was our spy chief, Mike Burgess, speaking a little earlier this evening. Have a listen to this.
ASIO has detected and disrupted countless examples of all these things. 24 major espionage and foreign interference disruptions in the last 3 years alone, more than the previous 8 years combined.
Matt, he also went on to say that foreign agents are hunting AUKUS secrets in particular. How concerned should we be?
Well, it's not surprising that there is great attempts to seek this kind of intelligence. Such attempts would, of course, be correlated with the increasing tensions we are witnessing in our region. That's something we can see and is transparent. And so because tensions are rising, because countries are responding by joining agreements like AUKUS, that is also going to lead to a lot more of this activity, which is more hidden and not potentially seen. So none of this is surprising, but it all is confirmation of how important it is for us to have robust intelligence services that counter this kind of espionage. It's obviously a warning to all of people like myself and in this building to be very careful. And keep in mind that what does seem a little bit askance at the moment is how close the government is becoming to China. Yet the government at the same time tells all of us in this building we can't have Chinese apps on our phone. That a minister in this government apparently has a Chinese electric vehicle and he's been told he can't plug in his phone to that vehicle. And so on the one hand, the government is saying, oh, it's great to be really good friends with China. And on the other, they're telling its own employees, you can't trust them. No. Those two things don't really match up. No,
I mean, it makes absolutely no sense, does it? Saxon, what's your view on this? Mike Burgess also said that the main, critics in all this, it's China, Russia and Iran. I think we could all expect that they are the three main ones. But, just to my question, like I asked Matt, how concerned should we be?
We should be very concerned, and it just stresses the need that we need to take our national security and our defence far more seriously than we currently have. And we also need to strengthen our ties with our most important security partner, that being the United States, particularly when they're conducting review into AUKUS right now. We need to be taking our defence far more seriously. We need to be investing a lot more into our national security and a lot more into our defence, especially now that we know that it cost our economy $12.5 billion a couple of financial years ago. And we need to be far more careful about how we are interacting with the Chinese, the Russians and other adversaries. Obviously, having a trade relationship with China isn't enough to keep our national security intact. And I don't think it matters how many trips the Prime Minister makes to China. They're obviously going to be after our national security secrets and our defence secrets. We need to be taking this a lot more seriously. We need to be taking the route that the US and NATO have recently, increasing our funding into defence and national security far more than the meagre 2% of GDP that we currently have.
Yeah, they're clearly sniffing around. They want to know about AUKUS. It's certainly a worry. Now, look, the Coalition's move to launch an inquiry into Labor's reversal of the ban on US beef imports has been denied in the Senate. Matt, you moved this motion. What is the Senate so scared of?
Well, what are the Greens so scared of? In particular, the Greens this fortnight have effectively blocked all scrutiny of the government. They've done some deal, apparently, by the look of it, with the Labor Party here, and it's very sad for our country because the Senate should be a house of review. It should be a place where there's a scrutiny, there's a level of real scrutiny over government actions. There's a very significant government action to allow not just US beef, let's be clear here. This decision allows cattle born in Mexico to come through processed beef into Australia. And the concern I have with that is that Mexico itself imports cattle from countries like Guatemala, but Nicaragua and Belize, where the status of mad cow disease is not rated as negligible. And that would be devastating if that disease got here. So is that potential for cattle to come from those Central American countries through here? Now, the government, I felt, could not answer basic questions in a private briefing we had on this issue. I do not understand why the government will not submit itself to a public briefing from experts and officials to reassure our agricultural sector, our beef producers, that everything has been done correctly here. I mean, what have they got to hide? All we've heard from in these changes, all we've heard publicly, are the politicians. The beef producers don't want to hear from politicians. They don't want to hear from me. They don't want to hear from the Minister for Agriculture. They want to hear from the Chief Veterinary Officer. They want to hear from the experts that live and breathe this issue and be reassured that their biosecurity, their safety, their families' livelihoods will be protected.
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on. They just want to know the basics. M.Canavan, Saxon Davidson, we've got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.